Hello,
Hello,
hello.
everyone. Welcome to A Democrat and Republican Walk into a Bar, the live online version. I'm your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
I am your Republican host, Sean Hartman. Our last show of 2024
Right.
is here. It has been an interesting year. We've had a very good break. How did you enjoy your Christmas break vacation?
Oh, I had a wonderful Christmas with my family, like pretty low key, but just doing all the typical stuff, making cookies and going to see the lights, and I had a wonderful time. How about you?
I had a good time. I went to AmFest over in Phoenix. I didn't get to see Trump because I had to fly out that Sunday, but I saw a bunch of interesting people. I didn't get a chance to meet him because I didn't realize it was him when he was there, but apparently the QAnon shaman was at AmFest. And it took me, I thought it when I saw him, I was like, that's some guy cosplaying as the QAnon shaman. And then I looked it up, I was like, oh, that's his tattoos. That's the actual person.
That was
It
really
has
him.
been it was an interesting time. A lot of good. There were some breakout sessions which I thought were very educational, especially on the data. Scott Pressler, who was big in flipping Pennsylvania and getting voter registration out there, was there and giving some counsel during the breakout session. So I thought it was a great time. But that was how I spent my December my December vacation.
Wow. Well, good. And so we are planning on doing a recap of 2024 here. But as we are uh, live online right now, we just got the
Literally
news,
moments ago.
yeah, just moments ago that former President Jimmy Carter, the 39th president in the United States, has just passed away at the age of 100.
Which is a pretty
So,
mighty year. That's pretty impressive for him to get to that point. I mean, we knew it was going to come.
yeah,
It was
he's
pretty
been in
inevitable.
hospice for
Oh,
nine
for
months.
sure. I'm honestly shocked he lasted this long. If I'm
Well,
being honest, look, Jimmy Carter is one of those presidents where he had a bad presidency, but a better post presidency, and I think he has so much more of an impact after his presidency than his actual 4 years as president. And I think what's also very interesting and what I've always admired about Jimmy Carter that not a lot of people realize is Jimmy Carter was a more conservative Democrat. He wasn't this big left wing progressive when he was president. There was a lot of economic policies that he had, which were actually very similar to Ronald Reagan. It was just unfortunately he was a president at a bad time and a bad economic impact that arguably could have was exacerbated by some of his policies. The other thing that happened, by the way, is I got this little guy who's crawling around is my friend's cat.
oh,
I'm taking care of him, and he's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna stay here, but you're wanting to hang out anyway." He's
Jack,
running
my
around.
cat's over here looking at you, thinking that you're an asshole.
Oh, of
So
course, yeah, because he's a Democrat. So what happens when you raise Democrat cats? They just
he's
hate
just a
Republicans.
cat.
Well, it's
But
just because
so,
what JD Vance has probably turned him off of all Republicans. Let's be honest.
Jack knows what's good in this world. But anyway, so I do want to say, just honoring Jimmy Carter as a president. I've actually been reading a lot of, I mean, I'm a voracious reader anyway, but I've been reading a lot about the Jimmy Carter era right now. I am almost completed with a book called Den of Spies, which I'm sure you would be very excited to read because it's essentially about how the Ronald Reagan campaign and his campaign
Yeah,
manager, Bob Casey, delayed the release of the hostages, which
I've
is
heard that.
in
Yep.
that election year leading into 1980 was the main compelling reason why Jimmy Carter lost. He also had the economic issues around
But
him
yeah, but
with
I think
high
the
inflation
nail
and
on the coffin was the Iran hostage crisis.
absolutely.
And yeah, and
But
we've seen this in multiple presidencies actually,
yeah,
where the
the assertion of the October surprise, though, of course, is that the that it was Bob Casey who had arranged with the Iranians to delay and basically thwart the Carter administration's attempts to free the hostages because they didn't want them to have a political win. And this was the case because then the hostages were actually released like the day after the
not
election.
even the day after, it was literally minutes after he was inaugurated. So yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
it was and essentially this reporter, this investigative reporter, Craig Unger, has put together all the different pieces of it to prove that he was there and that George H.W. Bush was part of that as well. And it's very interesting. But
yep,
his analysis, Unger's analysis of Reagan, or not Reagan, but Jimmy Carter during this time was that he was too much of a do-gooder. And that's actually apparently the analysis, the perception that the intelligence agents had, right? The reason that there was a big backlash against Carter from the intelligence community is because he like gutted them and told them that they couldn't do clandestine operations and all this stuff. And they wanted to do that. And so they thought he was like a gutless guy. Because they always wanted to do it was right. Like, you know, the intelligence were going in like, go kick their ass.
I think Jimmy Carter can arguably said is the last truly morally good president, like all the way around. Like you can't really say anything bad about Jimmy Carter's character. You can complain about the policies, you could complain about the economic times. There's really nothing bad you can say about Jimmy Carter's character. And that is I think the biggest testament to him.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you that don't know, he then started Habitat for Humanity, which is a huge organization that works around the world. It's rooted in, you know, the Christian service ideology and providing homes to folks. And so that was a major contribution in his post-presidency. So anyway, in memoriam, rest in peace to the Carters and President Carter. And, you know, thanks for your service, because it's a difficult role to play.
Yeah. And he came in at a time where we needed that sort of outsider. I mean, he was post-Nixon. His whole campaign was that I'm not from the Washington inside. And so I think that the way he campaigned and the way he utilized the primaries, I think was very effective. He was pretty ingenious in terms of his campaign strategy. There's a lot about him that I feel like a lot of people don't know or realize that it's just very impressive.
Always different angles. So let's refocus then on 2024. So 2024 was a big election year. A lot of different stuff went on, but I want to throw it over to Sean first. So Sean, what do you think was the most important, biggest, interesting thing that happened in politics in 2024?
I would say Trump winning the popular vote was the thing that shocked me the most. I didn't expect it. I have always seen Trump as having a big issue with popularity. And I think really a lot of that popularity loss was probably more on Kamala Harris and losing the progressives. But I think, again, Trump and the Republican base made efforts to expand outward to different groups and to different demographics, and we've seen the effects of that. And I think the real lesson and the real takeaway on both sides really is you need to go to the areas that you're not comfortable and going to, because even if you don't win those states, you'll make headway, and that's what we need to start doing. So I think Trump changed the game when he won the popular vote. It's now you can't really dispute now that he was duly elected. It's not like 2016 where Hillary won the popular vote and then we had questions about Russian interference. You can't dispute this one. It's pretty clear cut in my opinion.
So I will agree with you on that. I will agree with you that is definitely like among the most momentous things of the year, if not the most momentous thing. I will say though that I disagree with you that it was this amazing outreach that led Trump to lead the popular vote, because most of the data analysis that I've seen and that I've read had to do with the fact that Trump's base stayed about the same, and it was Democrats that stayed home. So it was really more that those folks came out to vote. Now, I will say that over the past several cycles, there's been a shift in whom is a traditional Democrat versus a Republican voter. But from what I understand, overall, the total base number of the Trump voters did not significantly increase, but there was a lower overall turnout for the election and lower amount of Democrats. So I'm not going to let you take a whole victory.
Okay, that would be. I'm not taking a whole victory either. I think a major portion of it does come from the Democrats who didn't vote for Kamala Harris, who were disappointed. I think on your side, the
Gaza.
Yeah, well, really on your side, the takeaway is that the policy or the strategy of trying to appeal to Republicans doesn't work, because you didn't really pull off that Republican votes. And I think,
agreed,
in all honesty, if Democrats want to have a better shot, they should look into electing someone more progressive as opposed to someone who's a more moderate. I agree. I honestly think this now. I think it's great because I still think we could beat a progressive, but I think that if you're looking at it from the outside looking in, it's clear that Democrats appealing to Republicans doesn't win votes. So
Yes.
if that's not working, the only other solution is to go further to the left. That's what the Republicans have always done. You know, when we
Yeah.
nominate the moderates, the McCains, the Romneys, they lose. But when we nominate the Reagans and the Trumps, they win.
Yep.
So I'm going to say,
Yeah,
go more extreme. Go full
no, you're
socialist.
not incorrect. I mean, actually, we've seen the kind of like circling back of like the far right and then like the far left having a lot of overlap ever since Bernie. There was a lot of Bernie to Trump voters. And some of those issues are very salient even here in 2024. But yeah, it's definitely what's funny is that amongst the Democratic talking heads, their analysis is the same as yours, but their outcome, their decision of what to do is different. They're like, oh well, we need to be more moderate. I'm like, whoa.
It's the exact opposite lesson.
I know.
That's the whole point. The whole point is you tried to be more moderate and that failed.
And that failed, right?
But yeah, I can understand why the mainstream media doesn't want to say, yeah, go further to the left, because their corporate donors are probably not wanting them to go further to the left. So yeah, they're not going to tell them the truth. But I'm very interested to see how the 2028 primaries are going to go.
I mean, because I will tell you, I'm within these discussions in the party and stuff like that. And yeah, that's what they're saying. They're like, oh, well, no, clearly we need to be more moderate because Kamala is getting hit on being too progressive. I'm like, that is absolutely not what the data is telling us.
We're going to
hit you.
We're going to hit you. Could be the most Democrat out there. We will call you progressive or socialist regardless. This is like you will call us fascist.
So you might as well do something for the people, because actually what I've seen is that the biggest loss in the Democratic base for voters and on policy is this seeming disconnect between the regular people. So not acknowledging that the prices and the inflation has affected household budgets, right? Not acknowledging that it's difficult, that people are not making as much money as they feel they should be making.
Table issues.
Right. It's kitchen. Exactly. It's these real, grassroots issues. And that was the problem. And there was this perception that Democrats were far more concerned about the cultural issues.
Yeah.
And I will say, so my contention to that, though, by the way, I just read another book on this called Where Have the Democrats Gone? By one of the authors was Rui Teixeira. And that was his analysis, that it's like, oh, the Democrats are too focused on trans, gay, and climate change and shit like that. And I said, okay, but I will at least, not on climate change as much, but on some of the cultural issues, I will say that those were purposefully pushed out by Republicans as a strategy to essentially send Democrats down a rabbit hole.
I mean,
for messaging purposes.
You're 100%. I think you're very much correct there. I think Republicans locked down on this issue as a wedge issue and emphasized it and magnified it to exacerbate it. Yeah. I think it was an issue, I think, which resonates with a lot of people who are probably, tolerant of the LGBTQ plus community, but feel like it's getting closer to home when they feel like their children are being involved. And so it became more of a personal issue outside of a tolerant issue. And it became more of, it felt like you were forcing this upon us.
It was all fabricated, John. I mean,
whether or not that's true,
completely fabricated. The bathroom thing was fabricated.
I think there was a level of cancel culture for a long time.
These are not real issues. These are not things that people every day in and day out care about.
You're right in the fact that they aren't issues that regularly affect Americans. Like, honestly, between you and me, like, I don't care who I'm pooping next to in a stall. Right now, if a woman comes in, lifts up her dress, and pees next to me in a urinal, I'm going to have some problems. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. All right, that's just the way it is. And people who are like pro-trans, who might be offended by me saying that, they're saying I'm transphobic because I don't want to pee next to a woman in a dress. Anyway, the point is that it's not. So you're right. Again, it's a kitchen table issue when it comes to the inflation, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to, in certain areas, crime and law and order as well. Like, these are the issues that are affecting everyday people. But what Republicans did
some of the criticisms of Democrats on those issues was also that these became the purity tests, right?
Yeah.
So that it's like, if you said, okay, who gives a shit about trans women playing sports? And it was like, oh my God, like the pearl clutching the left on the left, right? Like, oh, why aren't you fighting for this issue? It's like, because 10 people in the country are affected by this, right? Like, this does not have to be a major plank, right? I think that, and that was a fair criticism. I mean, in terms of the Democratic response to it, but to say that that was the downfall of the Democrats is not entirely looking at the picture of the fact that was pushed out to be the downfall. It's a strategic
not even that
issue pushed by the Republicans.
Again, not even that. This is multitudes of factors. You have the economy being the main. I would say the economy was the underlying issue, and I think the culture war issues was sort of a supplement to it, because
distraction.
It was a distraction, because what our argument was is that instead of focusing on the economic issues, you're doing these woke purity tests, right? And so by painting you as the party of woke and paying us to the party of economic benefits, that's how we were able to win that out. But
absolutely,
but I think, again, you're right. Obviously we exacerbated it, but again, your party did do a lot of those woke purity tests on your.
A lot of people did. They took the bait. They kept talking about it.
Exactly.
They can't help themselves. And honestly, I would be like, yo, shut. Because I was like, we got to do what the Republicans do. Is like, you talk about what you want to talk about. Like, but they can't, Democrats have this like do-gooder thing, like the Jimmy Carter, little Jimmy Carter sitting on your shoulder kind of thing, where it's like, you got to do the good thing. You got to do the right thing all the time. You got to over-explain and tell them like how good you are instead of just talking about what you want. And they lose that in the messaging, I think, a lot of times. So
they're trying to prove themselves right as opposed to appealing to the audience and the voter. Voter doesn't want to be told that they're wrong. The voter wants to be heard, and their will obeyed, quite frankly.
Right. So, and they want to talk about things that they care about, right? And it sucks to like have no money. Now, you could argue about like why that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
But
and if we actually had that economic policy debate, and look, I think if Kamala had more time to really go through her economic policy, I read some of it. She had a lot of pretty decent ideas. I hate to say it. But if there was an actual debate on economic policy, it would have been interesting to see, but we didn't get a chance to really go through that.
So that's where I want to come in. So my major issue, biggest momentous thing of 2024, I want to say actually didn't happen in 2023, but was related to the 2024 election. And that was Joe Biden continuing his run for president. Because as we saw in, was that July, Joe Biden down and then we had Kamala come in. This caused a lot of problems and chaos. There's a lot of like logistic issues with just like having 4 months like before a presidential campaign. You have to rebrand everything and remessage everything, which I think was a major reason why it within some of those marginal states and stuff that the Kamala Harris lost out, because I don't think people really fundamentally understand just how difficult it is to get out a message about a candidate to tens of millions of people. Like, it's extremely difficult, let alone getting those people to do something like get off their butt and go vote, right? Like this is not just do like Coke or Pepsi kind of thing. It's a much more complicated behavioral action necessity thing when it comes to voting. So, but I think that we could have avoided all of that if Joe Biden had chose not to run, if he had done what he had promised a lot of people, which was be a bridge to the next generation, and then simply allowed a presidential primary process to happen. And maybe Kamala Harris would have come out on top of that, but by not allowing that, it actually undercut a lot of what Democrats say is their major principle is democracy and choice and freedom, and really gave the feeling, and especially as a critique from Republicans, that they had a candidate that was hand selected undemocratically and shoved down people's throats.
A very undemocratic selection for a Democratic Party. Yes, 100%. I think Joe Biden royally. Well, first off, I don't want to blame Joe Biden for it because let's be real about what had actually happened. Joe Biden would have continued to run if it wasn't for Nancy Pelosi and George Clooney and all the vipers out there stabbing him in the back like frickin' Ides of March. Okay, he is very much a Julius Caesar in this situation, and
Yep.
Nancy Pelosi was Brutus. He was stabbed in the back. This is why there's all these Republican. They're really jokes, but because I don't think it actually happened. But a lot of Republicans are saying that the Bidens actually voted for Trump because of the backstabbing. I know it's not true, but that's where we saw this happen. And Republicans, I think there's a lot of Republicans who actually feel bad for Biden for how this was treated. And again, I think Joe. I remember the interview saying he was going to run a second term very early on. So I didn't think he was going to drop out for Kamala. If he was going to do it, back in December was the time to do it. I still also believe, and very firmly, that Joe Biden had a better chance at beating Trump than Kamala.
I agree.
So I think the whole hullabaloo of kicking him out was really your guys' downfall, and you guys shouldn't have. You should have stood by your man. You should have been with Biden, rode with Biden, and maybe we still would have won, but we wouldn't have flipped all of the swing states. We probably would have flipped. My thought was we were going to flip Pennsylvania and Georgia, and that's how we were going to win. I would have seen. I honestly believe that if Joe Biden was the nominee, we would have flipped Georgia, Pennsylvania, maybe Wisconsin. We would have been like a 280. We may not have even won the popular vote.
Yeah, I'll say again, I'm going to go back to like the logistics side of a campaign. It was just far too late in the game. And
of course.
Again, that name recognition.
Yeah, true. Kamala could have possibly won if she had an actual primary and could win. You're on.
Oh yeah, I mean, she had the time. It's the time. Like that's the thing. The time, the door knocking, the messages out, because elections now, especially in the polarized America, come down to this very small group of voters who are the people that are the swing voters, right? And they're also the people who don't always vote consistently, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to get this very, very small portion of people. I mean, of course, the bases are trying to get their people out. That's a huge deal as well. And that's, like you said, that's one of the snafus that the Democrats had, is they did not do well on that because they forego the Gaza progressive vote.
Yeah, so many of these elections these days are base turnout elections as opposed to precision elections.
They mostly are. I mean, just because the numbers are so small, and you can't rely on these non-consistent voters, right? People who don't vote in every election cycle, every presidential cycle. You don't know if they're going to vote, and you don't know how they're going to vote because they're not necessarily high information voters either, right?
Exactly.
So they really do rely on the, have I heard their name before? Like,
what do I stand on?
Like I like
and
that?
And even I had a very hard time pinpointing what Kamala Harris stood for, and I think that you're right. If she had more time, she could have easily made more inways and probably could have had a similar result as Biden if Biden had dropped out earlier. But look, I think again, you're looking at it as more. Oh crap! The cat's gonna probably try to walk on the computer now. Anyway, you're looking at in the terms of if Joe Biden dropped out before. I kind of look at it more on if you guys would have just stood by Joe Biden. I think that's
what I'm saying. If we stood by Joe Biden, I agree with your premise. There's your cat walking by. Nice orange butt. But no, Joe Biden had stuck in. I think he, like you said, it would have been better because then they could have just wrote it out. I mean, honestly, they could have just done videos and, you know what I mean? They didn't even have to put him on the campaign trail.
Right. The first big political speech, he gave a speech in an interview after the debate. That was fine. His speech at the DNC was really good and very powerful, I think. So it's like you guys freaked out over one bad debate performance. Like you guys haven't seen a bad debate performance before. And again, if it would have been, if it wouldn't have been in July, if it would have been in September, it would have been a different story too. So a lot of, I just think, and that I think I agree with you is one of the bigger stories that was a shocker to me. I honestly thought Joe would stick by it, but with all that pressure, I can see why he had to do it.
Yeah. Trash. All right, so that's my analysis. 2024 was trash. I'm sure you're very excited though on the other side of that coin. But let's focus on Southwest Florida, right? That's our home.
Mm-hmm.
Respectively, I'm in Fort Myers and you're in Cape Coral.
Yep.
What do you think is like the biggest political story of Southwest Florida for 2024?
Easily the flip of the city council in Cape Coral. I think that the anger over the stipend was so intense. I mean, again, we've talked about it so many times on this show. I'm not going to beat around the bush in it, but I think that was our biggest story locally, and I think the effect that the grassroots movement of preserving Cape Coral has done. And here's the sad part about, or first off, not with the stipend, because the stipend that was repealed the first day. That was done and dead within moments. But the other big issue was J.C. Park, and where we had many people who were saying we need to pause the J.C. Park building and all of that. No one's doing it. No one's made that.
No, that's already like underway. Contracts
it's already
are
underway, and basically what I've been told by a council member is that the millions of dollars in lawsuits that would come if we paused it is what's stopping them, which was my biggest worry, and why I asked a bunch of council members, including Joe Kilrain. I asked both Joe Kilrain and Charlie Pease what they would do, and Charlie said he would pause it, and Joe said he would stop it completely, and nothing, no motions, no nothing from them. So I'm a bit disappointed on that regard. But the stipend, of course, biggest issue on the campaign, and the candidates that won. And I talked to someone about Joe Kilrain's campaign about why Joe beat Charlie, and I think a lot of it had to do is there is anger for the voters in Cape Coral, and Joe was able to tap into that anger better than Charlie.
He certainly was.
Pease is a very positive and optimistic, upbeat guy, and that was really what cost him the election. Was he's too positive, and Joe was tapping into the viral anger of the people who were mad at the city council, and that Charlie didn't tap into. But I think Charlie was a very strong candidate, and I look forward to seeing him running for office in the future and doing good things for Cape Coral. He's still doing great things at the technical college, bringing in workforce development, which is something we desperately need here. So he's continuing to serve our community as well. And who knows, Joe's an elderly man. He might not go for a second term, or anyway, we're not going to go there. But I think that was our biggest local issue. I did want to bring this up as well before we get to yours. I know this the big state issue was the two Democrats on the state legislature who flipped Republican. I know one of them, I don't know, Susie or whatever her name, Susie Valdez. I think she's up in the Tampa area. I'm pretty sure hers, from my understanding, was because she lost her race for a state committee woman. Hillary Castle
for the DEC chair.
Yeah, DEC chair. I thought she was running for. Yeah, she basically ran for a board commission. The Democrats said no, and she's like, "I'm going to take my ball and go elsewhere." We'll take them, but sore loser much on that one. But Hillary Castle was a bigger surprise for me. I have heard her name before. I've heard her in circles as a potential statewide office candidate, possibly for like AG. And from my understanding from her argument, it has to do with the issues of Israel on her side, because she's Jewish and pro-Israel, and she feels that the Democratic Party is moving away from that.
Which is not an issue that the state deals with. But anyway, I'm pissed off.
But that would be an issue. But I could see that being an issue of why you wouldn't want to stay with that party, right? You're right. It's not an issue the state deals with, but I think that
he should have run as a Republican. Actually, I have a tweet that's actually doing really well right now in response to Hillary Castle's resignation that says, you should have run as a Republican, because she ran uncontested, by the way. And if she had run, because I was recruiting people all over the state of Florida, I would have run an actual Democrat against her if I'd known. I'm very upset because we were working with her in the environmental caucus. She had done some good things on the environment.
I think.
And we saw her as an ally. Now, I hope that she continues that, because that's not necessarily a partisan issue. But it's very upset with that, because she was in a blue area. she was a shoo-in, and she knew that. And if she had told people, so this whole like line that like, oh, I'm doing it for my constituents is bullshit, because if her constituents knew she was a Republican, we would have ran a Democrat and she would have lost.
Yeah. Her constituents are Broward County. No, you're absolutely right. Her constituents would have rather had her. She would have probably been better as an independent if she was doing it for her constituents than a Republican.
Yeah, no.
Here's the other part
she
of
lied
it.
to them,
Yeah.
and that's
Here's
not
where
right.
I will
That's the
agree
whole
with.
thing. Like I said, like be whoever you want, but like don't run as somebody else. You know.
That is where I agree with you.
And lie.
I think it's unfair for either side. I would hate it.
Correct.
If we had a Republican, let's say, you know, I helped. I'm going to use my friend David Mulligan as an example to pick on him, but he would never do this. Just to be clear. But let's say Scott Fisher
was a Democrat.
Oh, okay.
School board.
Oh, okay. Oh, Sam Fisher, you mean?
Oh yeah, Sam Fisher. Sorry.
Sam Fisher, you're right.
Scott Fisher is a philanthropist.
I think. Yeah, I think I distinctly remember when I think Sam was.
Sam Fisher was a big supporter and was a campaign manager for April Freeman when she was running as a Democrat.
I was gonna say, I think I knew him in his Democratic years. I know Debbie Jordan because I think he ran for city council the first time as a Democrat, but I'm not 100% sure. And Sam is generally pissed off at me for talking about him, so I don't want to say anything and not confirm. But no, not even. But let's say let's say we elect a Republican to county commission or something, and then right after we elect him, they decide to switch to the Democratic Party. We'd feel betrayed as Republicans. So
yeah, I would say,
yeah,
I would even go as far as saying like, let's say that you had ran as one party. Like I'm, even though I'm not happy that Jennifer Nelson switched parties, she switched parties like after being elected, and Jessica Cosden too. It wasn't like, hey, I got elected, the Democrats helped me, and then
you didn't do it a month after, exactly.
Right. I mean, it was like,
I agree with you.
You know, and then that's okay because you can change your mind.
That's fine. Yeah, if you have to give it at least a year to 2 years in the office as what the people elected you on, because I think
because then you're manipulating people and voters, and that's not fair. And as you and I both know, behind the scenes, the parties help their candidates, right? So if you took the help and money and support and groundwork of those,
and now you're just like saying, "Yeah, I'm joining the other side."
Right? Like, yeah, that's a really good way to piss everybody off. So fuck those bitches is my
welcome. When I say to them, "Welcome, bitches."
Yeah, y'all can have them. We can take the turncoats over there. But
I wanted to bring that up real quick. Yeah, what was your big issue? Did you think? What do you think is the stipend?
No, there was something else that I was shoot. No.
Oh, I've made you.
Now I lost it. We were talking about Charlie Pease and Kilrain. And I agree that the Cape Coral City Council was a really big deal, and definitely a really good example of like how not to piss off all your constituents.
Yeah, very clearly.
Like if you piss off everybody in town, like don't do that.
Master class on what not to do.
I'm gonna say that the other big issue locally is one that's continuing to unfurl, and that is the Carmine Marceno.
Yes.
Fraud. There's FBI investigations. People are dying left and right suddenly.
People are dying?
Yeah, like his dad kind of just pooped, and like there was another guy that was kind of involved, and he just died all of a sudden.
This is getting mafia level.
Yeah, it's getting pretty mafia looking. There's been a long speculation of misdeeds by Carmine Marceno, including abusive women, including essentially hiding and burying political allies. Bless you. Criminal acts, right? Like DUIs and stuff like that. But this, and something that I had long asserted as well came out in this investigation was the campaign contributions, right? So I had known that there was this I don't know, agreement between Carmine Marcino and local defense attorneys that if the defense attorneys had paid into his campaign, then they got this kind of favorable treatment.
Oh, wow.
And I know that because my ex-husband was a defense attorney. And I said, why the hell is there a campaign payment to Carmine Marcino, the sheriff? And that's when he told me that, oh, like then we get, then maybe for one of your clients, the sheriff doesn't show up or whatever. You just kind of get this, you get on the favorable side.
Favorable treatment for criminals. Very interesting from the
favorable treatment, for criminals and their criminal defense attorneys, right?
Allegedly, let's be clear about that.
Allegedly. But that's so not only did my ex-husband and everybody else in his law firm give campaign contributions to Carmine Marcino, they also put a campaign sign for Carmine Marcino outside their criminal defense attorney office, which is
of a defense attorney. Yeah, that's kind of
like the sheriff and criminal defense attorneys are like
you're not supposed to be buddy. You're
they're the opposite.
You're like it's like cat and mouse. You guys are supposed to be mortal enemies. What is going on here?
Right. So what had come out recently in the NBC2 report was that there were some suspicious looking campaign donations from other officers in the LCSO to county commissioners, including Mike Greenwell and Kevin Ruane. And this is, this was kind of like one little peek into this scheme that has been alleged by numerous people over the years about how Marcino funnels and uses money for his campaign, for other campaigns, for his friends, and all this other kind of stuff, and uses that also as political capital within the sheriff department for promotions and things like that. It's part of this really big set of allegations in there. And then, of course, the FBI investigation is into like ghost employees and fraud and money laundering and potentially connected to his gambling. But a lot of stuff coming out.
My big thing is that I haven't figured out why, but I've heard Lisbeth Benequisto is involved in all of this, and I don't know why. Or what do you know about that?
That I don't know. I haven't heard. I mean, but it could be he could have been contributing to her.
I've heard that she was getting paid for something, like she was one of the ghost employees, which would be sad because Lisbeth, in particular, I didn't like her at first. I ran with Michael Drycorn's campaign when he ran for state senate, and I was on that campaign. But Lisbeth, especially with the autism community, all the work she's done there, is really heartbreaking for me if she's involved with this in a negative way. What I will say is, the sad truth is in the Republican Party, everyone is afraid of Carmine, and it feels like you're almost alleging that Carmine paid off county commissioners to get what he wants. I think county commissioners just gave Carmine what he wants because we support the police and didn't think about being accountable. And so
Carmine's got the compromise, my friend. That's the key. Carmine's got all the info on everybody. So that's why
that wouldn't surprise me.
Jenna Person's campaign, Amira Fox's campaign, Brian Hammond. I mean, everybody's involved.
I think again, you're right. I think Carmine has had too much power for too long. I have not liked it. I've understand why he's, he built himself up into the sort of cult of personality here in Lee County. And I am happy to see that accountability is starting and that justice hopefully will be served in this. And I think once we get the grand jury, did the grand jury even do anything yet? I heard they were meeting.
No, I don't think we've gotten any official results.
Okay, so I feel like once we get a grand jury thing, the governor does have the authority to remove a sheriff. Whether or not he will do that or not is to be seen. But he's removed Patty Cummings, who was a supporter. He's removed other people. So
reportedly, Ron DeSantis is vetting people for that job, and I don't know.
They need someone who's going to actually have some moral high ground. Between him and Mike Scott, this has always been an issue with the sheriffs over the past few decades, where they would just corrupt the law enforcement agency. And we can't have that. Look, if you want people to support the police and trust the police, you have to make the police trustworthy and worthy of support. We can't just be like, let's fund the police. Let's back the blue or back the green, I guess, with the sheriff's office. But, back the blue, if the leader of the blue is over there, like, taking his money and paying off gambling debts and buying his dad a car.
And stalking women and
stalking women. That
being gross and creepy about it. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not.
I wonder how much of our tax dollars went into the G-strings of strippers. These are things we have to be concerned about, and I think Brian Hammond is trying to approach this in a reform-minded manner. He's taking the lead on it, which I appreciate it. I don't think the other county commissioners want to touch it, and so that's why I think Brian has a lot of courage to try to find some sort of solution. I'm not fully understanding what his proposal is. I think it's some sort of separate tax authority. But again, he's proposed. There's an attempt, I think, now to reform how we do things with the sheriff's office, which I think is.
All I know is I was going to shout out Kevin Farnes, who's the Lee County Clerk of Court, because he was demanding an additional investigation into the financial aspect of the Lee County sheriffs. So he was really.
How much of the audit is he doing, and what does he know? Because isn't that supposed to be his job? But I do know I do know he's been one of the key people vocally against this. One of the whistleblowers on this, I will say. So I do appreciate that from Kevin, as well. But yeah, this is, I think, a very big issue, and I think it's a very big fall from grace from a sheriff who I had at one point thought, if he wanted to, could run for Congress. Now, obviously not, but I think that this is someone who could see himself going for higher office and can run for higher office if he wanted to.
I mean, he definitely wanted to.
Yeah. Well, not anymore. I'm happy for it. I like it when our politicians are held accountable, and this needs to be a lesson to everyone to not idolize your politicians, whether it's Trump, whether it's Marcino, I don't know if the Democrats have an equivalent, because the good thing with the Democrats is you don't worship your politicians. I've always appreciated that about you. You will be jerks to your own people. Look at Joe Biden. You freaking stabbed him in the back. All right? Imagine.
I didn't stab Joe Biden in the back, just for the record.
Yeah. The collective your party stabbed him in the back. You get what I'm saying? Like you guys don't idolize your politicians like we do sometimes in our party, which is one of my biggest pet peeves with the Republicans. And so, pride cometh before destruction, and just good riddance. Can't wait for him to be out and a new sheriff in, and then process starts all over again, I'm sure, because this is never ending unless Governor DeSantis puts someone really upright, really willing to clean up our sheriffs and earn back our trust. So
yeah, I would really love to not have someone corrupt in any one of our offices.
Isn't that the dream? Just no corruption. Can we just have no corruption?
Can you guys not take our money and be dicks? Like, what do we have to do to get somebody like that elected? I don't know.
Honest politicians, where are they? Anyway, we should also talk, since our last episode and this episode, we've of course had the Luigi Mangione debacle and everything that's been going on there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that before I have my very poignant thoughts on this.
Eat the rich.
Eat the rich. That's my problem with portion of what I wanted to say. Actually, is my biggest issue with all of this, and I was hoping.
So what I was going to say is that I think this is actually very fascinating to see who is basically like cheering on, the assassination of an insurance executive, and who is not. And this is another place where you have the far right and the far left are kind of like coming together, because both of the far right and the far left hate the insurance companies and hate how fucked up our healthcare system is here. And they both seem to be pretty okay with the gunning down healthcare, an insurance executive in the street. But I will say that I've noticed that the tech bros and the corporate Democrats are all like, oh, we can't shoot people. But the rest of us are like,
and you know who else has said that, by the way? I don't know if you know this, Cindy, but we've said that on this show as well, that, political violence is bad and that we shouldn't be killing people. Here's the thing. The way I see it is, and first off, I'm going to actually preface this by saying I am probably the only Republican on the planet that genuinely supports universal health care. And I don't talk about it that often, for obvious reasons, but I've honestly long supported universal health care. And for me, it comes down to the right to life extending to the right to health care. I don't see how we can say that we're pro-life and then people are going into debt because of health insurance. And I think you're right. You have a lot of the far left and the far right seeing the problem with our health insurance industry. I don't think we need a single payer option, but I think like a public option or some sort of solution so that way no one is going broke and when they receive, life-threatening treatment or accidents. So I am outside of my Republican fold in my view on universal health care. But at the end of the day, we've talked about this so many times on this show that political violence is wrong. And the way I see it is this was a terrorist attack in the sense that a terrorist attack is political violence to promote a political message. And it's a terrorist attack that was successful because we're talking about the message, as opposed to the fact that an individual who has kids and a family is dead. The fact that, yeah, he's the CEO of a healthcare company, but the CEO does what the board tells him to do. CEO is not like some autonomous figure who can make decisions. The board of directors chooses the CEO. So if you're really wanting to kill the people responsible, go after the board of directors.
I mean, the CEO has a lot of power. The
CEO,
board
yes,
doesn't
has
do
a
the
lot
everyday
of executive
decision.
power, yes, but the policies that people are talking
I don't think that this was political violence, though. I think that if you were to make that case, you would have to say that he was committed to a political ideology, which he's not. And you would have to say that there was a broader message. And for it to be terrorism, there would have to be kind of organization and conspiracy around it. And there's not. This was a vigilante. This was a guy that was pissed off. It just so happens it resonated politically with people. But I would not categorize this as political violence.
Yeah. I definitely would categorize it as political violence. So I disagree with you there. I will say also, a lot of it is suspicious to me too. There's a lot of it smells fishy with this rich, elitist Harvard graduate, Yale graduate getting that angry at a health insurance industry. It just,
hey, you're the ones that want to give everybody a fucking gun. What do you think is going to happen? You don't think a few CEOs are going to get shot along the way?
Wait, so hang on. Will the Democrats start supporting the Second Amendment if we allow them to start shooting corporate elites? It's like, okay, we'll be for the Second Amendment. Just let us kill all the
CEOs. We support the Second Amendment, by the way. What I want to see, what I think is going to be, is when we have a resurgence of the Black Panthers and we have Huey P. Newton type standing on the steps of the Capitol with a AR-15, then we're going to see a whole bunch of Republicans suddenly get very concerned about gun control. Again,
I don't know. Actually, I think that we have a much more diverse party now. I think
no, you don't.
Yes, we do. We really.
More diverse than the white before, but you still don't have a diverse party. It's still mostly white.
Okay. There's a lot of white people still, yes, but yes, we are far more diverse than we were before. Definitely when I went.
But you're not diverse. Getting like 5% of Black men doesn't make you diverse.
We might not be as diverse as the Democrats. But yes, we are pretty, and the people who are active.
You're not even as diverse as America.
We're diverse. There's a diversity, and the problem there is a diversity.
Listen, just because we're not all white people anymore, we're diverse.
Exactly. We have
anyway, so you're saying, so you say that you're basically your premise then is that you're more diverse, so you're going to be cool with Black Panthers and AR-15s roaming the streets.
I think so. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. Well, we'll see. That could be 2025. Who knows? And on that, let's leave it on that. So obviously there's a ton of other stuff that happened in 2024, but in the last few minutes here, let's give a 2025 prediction. All right. So what do you think is going to be it doesn't have to be the most major, but a major political thing in 2025?
Well, first off, we're running into 2025 with the difficulty with the speaker's race, but I think that's gonna go through relatively smoothly. I think that we might maybe have one or two fallouts, but again, I think the real thing is the real issue is that we can't do anything until speaker's elected, including inaugurate the president. So there's a lot of difficulty. So I think eventually there might be some crybabies and a few people say no for a few ballots, but I think that's not
okay. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I would absolutely fucking love to see that. I would love to see the Republicans not be able to get their shit together enough to not nominate a Speaker of House and not be able to inaugurate.
Yeah,
think
about how stupid that would make us look. Exactly, it would be hilarious. It
would be amazing.
Which is why I don't think it's gonna happen. I do think that there's gonna be.
I don't know. They just found one of your chicks in a memory care unit after disappearing from Capitol Hill for 6 months.
Granger, what the hell is that all about? Oh yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So now you're down to like a one person.
Get her out from the memory hole and just have her vote. Just fly her back from the dementia place.
God.
Just tell her she's getting extra treatment in the Capitol. Oh
my God.
You're right. So, but I think I think we're gonna see what happens with Ukraine first. I think that's gonna probably be what I was about to say Putin. Trump was going to work on first to try to bring them at least to the table. Now, what that will entail, now it's everything's in the air. I don't know what it is. The general concept is a ceasefire at a demilitarized zone, but I don't think Zelensky is going to go for that. And I think that's gonna be the big foreign policy issue that's gonna take up, I think, most of his 2025.
You don't think invading Greenland, Panama, or Canada?
No, those are just him waving the big stick. So Greenland, and I was just watching some interviews on this actually. So Greenland and Panama are two different issues, and I think they can be resolved diplomatically. First off, Denmark will never sell Greenland. Greenland will never allow himself to be sold. It will probably be over $1 trillion to even buy it based on the resources. And Greenland actually really wants to be independent. So if we really wanted to screw around with them, we would support the Greenland independence movement and form a separate alliance with them. The issue with Greenland, as I'm sure you being a foreign policy nerd like I am understand, is it's like the Arctic gateway. And especially with global warming and the ice caps melting, it's creating trade routes. And the issue is Russia.
Guess who's most concerned about that?
Oh, usually the Democrats on that, but yes.
No. Globally.
Globally? Denmark and Greenland.
Russia. It's a direct trade route.
Exactly.
Through the Arctic for Russia to the west.
That's why it's a national security issue.
Well, that's why the Putin puppet of Trump is suddenly so concerned about Greenland.
No, yes, you're right.
Listen, that motherfucker couldn't find it on a map. Okay?
He
didn't even understand that the world is round and not flat.
Yeah. Look.
All right.
You are right that it's because of Russia, but it's not because he likes Putin. It's because, again, it is a strategic issue.
Because he was bought by Putin. It's not that he likes him.
Anyway, the control over that is a very important issue. And the same with Panama. From my understanding, there's some sort of deal with the Panama Canal and the Chinese, which violates the neutrality agreement. That's their claim. I think this could easily be resolved diplomatically. I think he can even push for to get the fees reduced, which is the other issue. But again, I think these are him waving the big stick to try to get some diplomatic action. I don't think there's going to be any annexations of that. And there's going to be no conquering of Canada in that regard as well. First off, it wouldn't be the 51st state because we'd have multiple provinces and each province would probably be their own state. So it's like 60, we'd be at the 60th state or something at that point. It's like, understand how this works. Also, do you really want all those Canadians? Republicans? I'm telling you, the conservatives in Canada are not our conservatives. So
they're Democrats.
They're going to be Democrats. You're gonna see. I'm honestly, your side should be the one pushing for annexation of Canada. You'll win. You'll win.
No, because generally we're anti-colonialist, so
pro-war anti-colonialism. Excellent.
Lord. Okay, so my big prediction for 2025 is that that Trump is really going to go through with the mass deportations, that this is going to become an amazingly horrifying situation with camps on the borders. It is going to absolutely destroy several key economic centers in the United States, especially here: tourism, agriculture, food processing, construction. And that's going to lead us into a recession, as well as being a pariah on the global scale, because we are enacting concentration camps. And this is going to continuously destabilize us. And I mean, and more like, and then I think that it could easily expand from there.
You talked about how it's so hard to do these deportations. There's a process and there's this legal aspect. So I figured.
I mean, there was. But but that doesn't matter because of the institutionalized attacks that Trump has had on everything. And then once he controls the trifecta, right? Yep. House, Senate, Supreme Court, and presidency, I don't think any rules are going to be followed. I mean, that's my prediction. Is like Trump's going to do whatever he wants. He's installed loyalists. There are no checks and balances, and it's going to happen. And I'm very concerned about that being much more sinister and horrifying than it can be, including political dissidents and things like that. So that's my major concern. I'm not going to go as far as to predict that in 2025, but I'm going to predict that the camps and the deportations of migrants starts happening.
It's not. I mean, even Trump recognizes it wouldn't even be a good look. So everyone agrees that the
y'all made signs. That was like the RNC signs, mass deportation. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
And not to mention the tech bro versus Laura Loomer battle of like which immigrants we're going to deport.
Elon Musk over the H-1B visas, and everyone's turning on Elon because we want skilled immigrants. How dare we want skilled immigrants? And Vivek, did you see Vivek's statement on? Yeah. We have been in the pro America Vivek Ramaswamy saying, we're not meritocracy anymore, and we've admired mediocrity in American culture. I'm like, whoa. Complete 180 from Vivek Ramaswamy.
The best analysis, the best commentary on that I saw was that somebody said that Vivek was talking to white people the way that white people talk to black people about the need to fix their culture, and white people did not like it.
That is a heck of a way to put it.
Ooh, I was like,
this Indian man is telling us how to behave, what to do with
and then by the way, like the fact that Loomer is going, no. Us MAGAs, we don't want any of these immigrants here. We don't want any of them. It was the Christmas present I didn't know I wanted.
Right, yeah, and I'm sure you're enjoying the division for sure. But it does look like Trump is siding with Elon on the H-1B.
I mean, today.
True.
But who knows if Laura Loomer gets back into Mar-a-Lago and she starts blowing him again? Who knows what tomorrow brings?
Yes. Well, her blowjobs better be powerful. Okay.
Listen, I bet you Loomer's better than Elon.
Oh no, autistic people are very. I don't know. Okay, you know what? This has been a Democrat and a Republican walk into a bar.
I've been your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
Are we going to be back at the bar on January 9th?
We are hoping to be able to set that back up, and we are going to be able to be live, but we're going to have to give you more information once all of that is confirmed in 2025. So thanks so much for being here. If you enjoyed our show, we would certainly love to have your support. You can check out our new pricing plans. We have total pricing plans for as little as $4.99 a month. You can get all of our shows delivered directly to you, and lots more coming in 2025. You can check that out on the plans and pricing page on our website, bigmouthmediafl.com. And we thank you so much. Hope you had a fantastic holiday and hope you have a wonderful new year. We'll see you in 2025. Bye-bye.